There you go. Hello, hello, hello. And we're seeing folks come in now. This is great. It's always my favorite when we put together an event and then you see all of a sudden a flood of people. So welcome. Hi, everybody. I feel like a real life DJ right now, even though the music was not mine, it was Anna's. So thank you, Anna, for sharing that. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to Latinas in Tech and Tech Fluency. I'm so excited to welcome you all. As a way of introduction, I'm Ceci or Cecilia Fisher Benitez. I'm a program manager here at Latinas in Tech. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I love to hear where everybody's tuning in from. So I'm seeing the chat. It's awesome to see where everybody's coming in from. So put your city on there and be represented. I'm seeing some Chicago, hey, in the house, representing LA, Vancouver, awesome. Philadelphia, Austin, Auckland, oh my God, this is great. So before we begin, I wanted to say thank you to our partner Accenture and a huge thank you to the folks that help us put together this event. And of course, another huge thank you to you for making time out of your day to connect with us and be here from your home. If this is your first Latinas in Tech event, welcome. You're in great company and in for an awesome time and opportunity to connect with other Latinas that are growing their careers. At Latinas in Tech, our mission is to provide the resources, opportunities, and community the Latinas need to thrive, innovate, and lead in tech. Yes, hermanas, we need to grow together. We do this by building programs and events focused on professional development, mentorship, and recruitment. So our community is well connected through our Slack workspace, but we also have a recent members only portal for Latinas to connect with each other and access job opportunities, past webinar recordings, and other resources available. It is completely free. So please feel free to join us on there. You will be in great company. We have over 3,000 women already in there, 2 to 3,000 about. So yeah, feel free to connect with us. We always love connecting with anyone who's interested in the work that we do. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, reach out to us directly. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Ana Luisa Aldana from Accenture, who will take it from here.
Gracias, Ceci. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon from San Francisco. Es la hora del cafecito. So if you're on the West Coast, grab your tacita and join us. If you're in Central or Eastern time, it's almost happy hour. So join us with your favorite libation. In San Francisco by way of Guatemala. So hello to my Chapinas out there in Chapinas. Kevin Cordon is rocking it in the Olympics. I hope you are following him. Very excited. He's from my home state of Zacapa, my departamento, I should say, of Zacapa. So a lot of Zacapa pride going on. At Accenture, I'm responsible for building trusted relationships with our public sector clients here in Northern California, and that translates to local government. And it's just wonderful to be part of helping government bring services to their residents. And especially during times of COVID, it's just been very rewarding to help all of us get vaccinated or get our unemployment checks for those who need it. And we are very happy that Accenture was a part of that. I'm also the Hispanic American Employee Resource Group lead for Northern California, and I think several of our 200 members are here. So hola mi gente. And today we have a fantastic panel to discuss this wonderful topic about tech fluency, conversing with confidence from a Latina perspective. So let's go ahead and meet our panelists. I'd like to start first with Rebecca.
Hello, everyone. Hola. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I just thought I would test it out in case I pressed the wrong button. Anyways, so hi everyone. I'm Rebecca Sanchez, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a technology associate director within Accenture, and I've been here for a long time, for over 20 years now. I've actually stopped counting, so now that's just the answer I use, over 20 years. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. But a little bit about me personally. I was born here in the US, but my parents were born in Mexico. So for me, my culture has been critical. It's something from day one that my parents instilled in me, the importance of really honoring who you are and where you come from. And it's something that as well I live day to day within my work job. I am passionate about inclusion and diversity. So you see me involved in lots of recruiting, lots of mentoring, and a number of different activities. Again, it's something that is very, very important to me because I feel it's critical that we bring up our Latinas and basically show the world, right, how strong and what a glorious people we are. So on the tech side, a little bit, I wanted to give you a little bit of information. So I feel like technology has been something that I was just destined to do. I was thinking back, the very first job I ever had, not including babysitting, was that I actually ran batch programs to generate letters at a collection agency. It was a collection bureau it was a credit bureau where I grew up in Kentucky. And again, I was just in high school, and it was it was a long time ago. And at that point, I didn't even. I never thought that it was going to be something that I would do my entire life. No, I haven't been running batch jobs my entire career. If I fast forward to today, I'm actually responsible for a large program that provides white glove customer support and technology support to Microsoft's small and medium businesses. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to our discussion. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Ana Luisa.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go over to Melissa.
Gracias. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear my audio. Okay.
I can hear you.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you. So, hola a todos. I'm very excited to be speaking to you all tonight. I'm Melissa Gonzalez. I was born in Costa Rica, so shout out to my ticas, pura vida. I was raised Peruana, but I consider Washington, D.C. area just to be my home. So at Accenture, I am a technology delivery manager with Accenture Federal Services, which is an entity that within Accenture that just works solely with government clients. I joined Accenture about 3 years ago, and I've been supporting a government client with digitizing immigration and citizenship forms by utilizing human design, agile, DevOps, analytics, AI, as well as mobile and web development. So I'm also very passionate about inclusion and diversity in the workplace, and I've been heavily invested through our recruitment and mentoring initiatives here at Accenture. I also co-lead the recruitment and IND ERG for Accenture for the DC chapter. So something I want to share is that I wasn't always in technology. So prior to Accenture, for about 8 years, I worked on designing investment loans for government agencies in Latin American Caribbean. So later on in this panel, I just can't wait to share with you how I made that transition into technology. So outside of my Accenture routine, I'm either on the Peloton bike or the app. So if you're a Peloton fan, please let me know in the chat. Or you'll also just find me baking those Peruvian alfajores cookies with my mother.
Wow, I'm ready for an alfajor right now with a cafecito. Wonderful South American treat enjoyed by all of us, Latinas and Latinos and friends of Latinos too. Very, very popular here out here in San Francisco, actually, to get alfajores. All right, we'd like to bring up Cassandra. She is our last panelist, also with Accenture.
Hi, Ana Luisa. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Cassandra Williams. I'm from Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. be surprised if there's anybody on here from Indiana, but welcome if you are. Now living in Chicago, I've been with Accenture about 9 years. I'm second generation Mexican-American, come from a very large family. Grandmother had 21 children, migrated up to Indiana, and here we are. So I joined Accenture in 2012 after getting my degrees in chemistry and chemical engineering. And again, as Melissa stated, I can talk about what that transition was like to go from science and engineering to landing my first role at Accenture in financial services. And then I ended up doing a lot of legal and regulatory work for big banks around the world, traveled, lived in various places around the world, doing that work in technology consulting. And then now I am internal at Accenture. So now looking at what we need as a company to bring solutions to our clients. So what are the tools and applications we need to deliver to the market, including our innovation spaces. So what are things that our innovation hubs and our liquid studios, our design studios, what are different tools that they need to make the work happen at the client site? So that's my latest role. I manage various teams around the globe in that work. And then when I'm not doing all of that, I have a husky that I'm obsessed with. I love her, Luna. Shout out to Luna. And I also love art. So always either painting, drawing, or going around the neighborhood. I live in Pilsen in Chicago, so always around the neighborhood, checking out the latest murals.
Great, thanks, Cassandra. All right, let's get started. And let's start with demystifying tech. When we hear the word tech, a lot of people, the first thing they think about are coders, processors, the cloud, right? Everything that's got a processor running something, right? But the reality is when we think broadly about technology, technology is that and much more. The wheel was a technology, a pencil is technology. Technology is what enables a change, has an impact, and can transform us and the world that we live in, hopefully for the better. So, and regarding the pencil as tech, there will be a link here on an article around Psychology Today where the pencil is the best tech for our elementary and middle school students to use in schools, not a laptop, and they make a very good case as to why. But let's demystify tech, because I think when we say, oh, I want to be a Latina in tech, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, I got to know how to code. Personally, in my own technology journey, I am not a coder. I didn't study comp sci, but throughout my career as a management consultant, I've had to be tech conversant. I've had to understand the uses of tech, especially to solve for opportunities or problems that our clients are having. So there is study, there is learning that can be taken to help us become fluent in technology and to articulate how might we be able to solve for challenges using technology. So Rebecca, let me ask you this question, right? Your experience in demystifying tech.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Ana Luisa. Yes. And as you rightly said, technology is definitely an enabler. And that's one of the things that I constantly remind our clients whenever I've gone in and I've been asked to come in and propose a new tool and tell them what tool to use. I always step back and say, but what are we trying to do with it? Right? What is it? What is that problem that we're trying to solve? I think today in our world today, I think technology is starting to become such an integrated part into our day-to-day lives that now it's going beyond people thinking of it as just a bunch of code, because most of the people that are now interacting with it, again, on a day-to-day, from a day-to-day perspective, are far from coders, right? So one example I always like to talk to people about is that in terms of how technology is now being demystified is when I think of even my own parents. My parents are in their 80s. They are as far from technologists as they get, but one of the things that I've realized is that just in terms of integrating their day-to-day lives with an Amazon Echo apparatus. So the virtual assistants that exist today, right? So with Amazon Echo, I constantly hear them talking to Alexa, right? And then asking everything from what is the weather today, so that they know whether or not they need to have a sweater or how they're going to plan their day. And I always think back to that because again, with them in particular, they're from a generation and also from a background where, technology just, when they think about technology, they talk about it scaring them, but they don't even realize that today it is part of our day-to-day lives, right? People are now going in and they talk to their houses to turn on lights. How amazing is that? So yes, I think that as technology is becoming more the mainstream, it's like slowly becoming demystified. And in addition, when we think of technology, the technologists that are out there are not just hardcore coders, right? We've got folks that are working with people to teach them how to use technology. You've got folks that are going in and figuring out how to establish the right technology within a workspace, right? But they're not the ones that are doing the coding. So I think, again, from my perspective, technology is slowly becoming more and more demystified as it becomes part of our day-to-day, so that you really don't see the coding, right? But it just becomes an enabler for life.
Great, thanks for that. So along the lines of demystifying tech, and now let's focus on women in tech, specifically Latinas in tech. The most recent study from Latinas in Tech, I think it was the 2020 study, gave us this sad but interesting data point. 80% of the Latina in Tech members do not have a senior level Latina to look up to in the respective organizations that they work in. That's very bleak. If you were to Google the percentage of Latinas in STEM, that number is 2%, right? So I feel everybody here is part of that movement to increase those numbers, and para adelante. But we've got some work to do, right? So, Melissa, when we think about what is holding back Latina women from moving up, in their organizations, and some of the common answers that we saw in this 2020 study from Latinas in Tech was that there is management bias and lack of confidence. But in your opinion, why do we still have the struggle?
That's such a great question, and I'm going to use one of my personal experiences that I've had with this. Tying it with the lack of confidence. So growing up, I was told in my household that I had to keep my head down. And then when I was at work, not to bother anyone of any authority, role, or level, or status, and I realized that really hindered my performance at work. And it really helped me realize that it was impacting my confidence level. And also impacting me when it came to networking events and speaking up, and I was just drawing away. So what helped me build up that confidence and get ahead in my career was to really step outside my comfort zone. And stepping outside my comfort zone, really what helped me was having Latino mentors, having a Latina mentor, having a Latino mentor, attending these summits, attending these speaking engagements, and just listening to the panelists share their own struggles and their own stories and what they did to overcome this. And that just really motivated me to push myself out of my comfort zone.
Great. Cassandra, what do you think? What do you think we are struggling? We're still struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with everything Melissa just stated. In addition, I would say to make them know who you are, right? Speak up, participate as much as you can, make sure that everyone says your name, knows your name, pronounces your name correctly, right? How do you want to be pronounced? How do you want to be called? And then you make sure you stand up for yourself in that regard. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned from one of my mentors, was to just make sure they know your name, make sure they know who you are. And then just becoming a subject matter expert of something, whether that be a client relationship, right? You are the SME at this client, or of a technology or something like that, right? Something that where everyone can come to you and you're sort of make yourself invaluable, you're irreplaceable in that regard, right? So I think becoming a SME of something, becoming specialized, that could help you. There's pros and cons to that, right? You could be pigeonholed into a position if you became too much of a SPE, right? Or specialized in something. But I do think it's good to know, be really good at one thing, right? And then kind of have that T-shape where you have the knowledge across, but then maybe I'm really great at one thing, and leveraging that and becoming known for that. So for me, those things have helped. Also, as Melissa stated, getting a sponsor, knowing who the decision makers are, because those are the people that are going to promote you. right? And those are the people that are going to get you the pay that you're supposed to be, receiving. So getting the sponsorship, getting the mentorship, and then getting those coaches.
So thank you for that. I want to add a couple of things to some things that Melissa and Cassandra said. So the importance of having role models and people to look up to is very important. I feel very blessed that I come from a family where my two grandmothers, my mother, and an aunt were very, very, very strong women in their time in Guatemala, which, I always find remarkable now that I'm a little bit older and can reflect on that. But I had wonderful role models growing up. But sometimes people don't have those role models, right? Even though I had these strong role models in my family, I had other family members, female, who would tell me, ¿para qué estás estudiando tanto? ¿Para qué te estás matando? Te estás quemando la cabeza, right? And I was just so firm in my convictions and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be that to me was noise. But I can imagine, right? If you're constantly listening to this, but you have that spark, esa chispa, right? If you don't have it in your immediate home, look for it in school, look for it outside. And tying into what Cassandra said about the mentors, right? This is where having mentors and allies, especially racial allies, is very important. Part of my story, part of my journey is that I did have racial allies that saw Ana Luisa for who she was and what she could do and her potential, and they're the ones who pulled me up. I'm now the one who's pulling up, especially my gente, right? But the BIPOC community and just anybody with that talent, right, that we need here. And I'm talking in the Accenture sense. So with that, let's go ahead and talking about flipping the narrative, right? So who here has been told, well, a Latina in tech, you're a little bit emotional, aren't you? And tech is very logical. How would you fit in a tech world if you're so emotional? And I know Melissa has, when we were talking about some of the themes or topics we wanted to bring up, I remember when I said this, there was like, we're going to go there. And I'm like, yes, we're going to go there. And in fact, we've got a live case where this was not prearranged, right? This actually happened to Melissa. So Melissa, take us through what happened. But how did you flip the story, or le diste vuelta la tortilla?
I love that. So yeah, so one time a former Latino boss of mine told me that he did not want to hire another Latina woman on the team because he felt that they were too emotional. And I remember feeling very offended by his words and less confident and a bit diminished. My efforts felt diminished. And in that situation, I remember that I initially wanted to take a defensive approach. And the more I thought about it, I realized that taking that type of approach would just either raise tensions or get us nowhere. And he just was not going to see it the way I was going to see it if I had taken that defensive approach. So I found that the best approach for me in those types of situations is to be candid, flip the narrative. So with that person, describe the impact with that person that biased behavior has on you, right? So in my case, I explained, this is how it impacts me, and this is how it makes me feel. And by flipping that narrative, it helped him understand and recognize that there was a bias here. And he had no idea, because that is just how he had always been. And he actually was very appreciative that I gave him that feedback. Of course, not everyone's going to be very open to it, but it does help them recognize that, hey, maybe I am holding a bias here that I just didn't know I was holding it. And from then on, he no longer brought that up. And it just made me realize that once we speak up and we can speak up about how it makes us feel in a very constructive way, those individuals, they'll be less likely to apply or use that same bias towards another Latina in our community.
Thanks, Melissa. I wanted to go to Cassandra, but I realized we haven't heard from Rebecca for a few minutes, so I'm going to actually turn it over to Rebecca. Rebecca, how do we flip the narrative?
Hi there. Yes. So, I think I completely agree with Melissa that a lot of times we tend to, if we get pushed down by someone, it's very difficult to want to speak up. And I actually find, even personally, that speaking up is even a challenge today. But the one thing that I've also realized is that, you have to have confidence in yourself. Whatever you bring to the table needs to be your true self, because that is your best self. I've also found that when you do pay too much attention to what others are thinking of you or assuming of you, that frequently you sort of make yourself into that model versus, again, what you really are and what you really truly are, right? You don't offer the best of you back to or to that situation that you are in. And so for me, I think back to the times where within my career, I've even, and even with life, right, where I haven't actually gotten what I wanted to get when I wanted to get it. It was really me believing others and what they were saying instead of having the courage to speak up. And that's something that now, again, after you learn the lesson multiple times, I realize how important it is to speak up, because a lot of times people don't even realize, right? They don't, sometimes people are saying things that just sort of, it comes out of their mind, and out of their mouths, not really thinking about how harmful that is, and how that can really slow us down. But then personally, I think that's where you need to really realize that, you know what, no, this is me, and the best of me comes, I may be passionate, but I'm not passionate in a negative way. I'm passionate because I care about this, and this actually drives me to be as good as I am, right? And I think having that confidence and being willing to speak up, I think that's how basically we end up flipping the narrative, right? It is having that confidence that, we're not what the world is saying. We are who we are. We know what we want. And now we need to just step into it and live it.
Yeah, in fact, that word pasión, that's how you flip when someone tells you you're emotional. No, I'm not emotional. I have a lot of pasión, and I have a lot of passion for this subject, which happens to be technology. Right. So, but I get it, right? Sometimes it's a time and place, and are you in the right time and place to firmly and with conviction say momento, right? Or is this something that you need to take offline, right? So you also have to gauge exactly what's the dynamic, what's going on, who's in the room, who's not in the room, right? So wanted to now switch gears here. When we let's talk about the tech fluency. I think it was Cassandra who was mentioning about having domain expertise in an area, but I think with that comes tech is always evolving, and it seems like in the last five years or so, it's just accelerated, right? It used to be a little bit more cyclical, and there was a little bit more time in between, but now it's just become a lot faster. So the intent to stay up with what's current in tech, to be able to have these tech fluent conversations, you're required to stay on top of it, right? So let's talk about how do we do that, right? How do we keep ahead in conversations that are regarding tech, having that tech fluency with our colleagues, or just even back to Rebecca's example. I'm sure there was a point in this Alexa journey where you had to sit down and explain this to your parents, right? Le vas a hablar a la Alexa. ¿Quién es la Alexa? ¿Dónde está Alexa? It's la bocina. What? It's like, so I'm sure there was a conversation there where you had to get them used to the idea of the tech. Now it's probably secondhand now that they're using it, and that's the part of the success of this very intuitive tool, right? But yeah, there's tech conversations happening all over. So how do we do to keep ahead? So let's start with Melissa.
Yeah, of course. So something I always do is I'm always learning. I'm always reading what I can about tech. At Accenture, we're always getting these newsletters of just different things that are coming down the pipeline. And that just really allows me to see what other departments are doing and how we can collaborate with each other. Also, something I want to share, like you said about family, they don't really know the technology. And for me personally, my mom still has no idea what I do, but she's just super happy that I'm in technology and I'm doing what I love, right? My passion. And to really understand that passion, I took it upon myself to like take an EDX course on information systems because there was just so much out there that I needed to narrow it down. And I know that was mentioned earlier by one of the panelists, like become a subject matter expert in something. So that's what I did. I learned all the fundamentals of those different technologies and programming tools and platforms. And I picked something that I truly enjoyed.
Okay. How do you stay up to date?
Oh, sorry, was that?
Yeah. As a follow-on, how do you stay up to date, Melissa? Do you podcast?
Oh,
do you
yes.
read?
Mm-hmm. So I'm reading, I'm listening to just different podcasts. I do a lot of Bloomberg because you'll realize that they combine both the business side of things and the technology side. So that's definitely one of my favorite. Bloomberg, just one of my favorite places to go to just read how those two are being combined.
All right, Cassandra, how do you stay up to date and tech fluent?
Yeah, I would have to echo a lot of what Melissa just stated, right? So I subscribe to a lot of the newsletters from our various industries or departments at Accenture, right? That lets us know, hey, this is coming out, this agriculture, or like, here's the future of food, right? I attended a social innovation learning today on the future of food and where Accenture plans to go with that and what we're going to be offering to our clients. So just always staying on top of, or like staying in the know as best as I can without being overwhelmed, right? So I think there's ebbs and flows to everything. There's times in my life where I can take on more content and more learning. And there are times where I need to buckle down and just focus, maybe on my project work or on my family, right? So there's ups and downs to that. But overall, yeah, my learnings, Accenture has a great learning, what do you call that? Like a dashboard that you can use. It's a my learning tool, and you can make learning boards. So if I say, okay, for this month, I want to learn a little bit more about blockchain, I can pull together some materials on blockchain. Same thing on AI, right? Same thing on anything related to financials, things like that. We also have like a wealth creation group. So if I want to learn more about our wealth creation and things like that, I can go and subscribe to those as well. So plenty of areas to subscribe to. And even for those not at Accenture, or at a big company at the moment, go to the library, right? And create your own pseudo learning boards, right? Here's the material I want to learn. Right now, I want to learn how to sell, or I want to learn how to build a business plan, or I want to be an entrepreneur in this area. I can build my own pseudo learning board. So for me, that keeps me, I think, at a big advantage. And then the next final thing that I do is always try to stay aligned to what is the CEO or the CIO's vision, right? Where's their vision? And am I aligned to that vision of this company, right? And if I'm not, how do I get my team and how do I get myself aligned there?
All right, Rebecca, how do you keep ahead in the conversation?
So I'm gonna have to echo what Melissa and Cassandra said in terms of trying to use now just different, different media that is out there and available to keep track of changes and what's happening. Internally, I take advantage of basically the different learnings that are pushed out to us. So similar to Cassandra, we've been pushing Technology Quotient quite a bit. And so that to me it's been really great because it's been a way to really become knowledgeable in short amounts of time, because there are a bunch of different videos on new technologies and new trends, and they'll have very knowledgeable speakers that come in. So again, it's a way to sort of work it into the day-to-day. I do that quite a bit. One thing that I also do all the time is that if I hear about something that is absolutely new and I haven't heard about it yet, I'm notorious for pulling up either through the computer or my phone. I tend to Google immediately just to see, oh wait, what is that? right? And nowadays, because it is so simple to really get information, it just, I try to take advantage of the resources at hand to do that, because technology, the irony is that when you buy a phone, the moment that you get it home, it's already outdated, right?
Mhm.
Just because everything changes so quickly, that's one of the reasons that I also try to take advantage of whatever enabler I have for me to get information. So be it a phone, be it a computer, be it whatever it is, or a friend, right? I also tend to do a lot of reaching out to peers who are working in certain areas, and even internally, we write a significant number of white papers on topics. And so again, when I want to become fluent, and it depends also on how fluent I want to become, right? If I want to have a discussion that's deeper, obviously, I'm going to have to do more digging and more homework per se, right? To become knowledgeable and fluent. But if not, like I said, I take advantage of what I have.
Yeah, I think what has worked for me in the past, especially when I was actively doing day-to-day consulting with our clients. Right now, I'm more of a relationship manager, so it's shifted a little bit, and the type of tech fluency I need to have still very important, but it's actually a little bit broader than when I was doing day-to-day work with a client. If it's a topic that I'm not sure I can really have a conversation with the client or even a fellow team member comfortably, I do a lot of research, and then I prepare like a lunch and learn. So I not only am I, and the process of pulling together the information, curating it, and articulating in a way that's going to be understandable by a broad group of people, unless it's a technical group, then I got to pull a tech buddy in to help me. So I'm not saying the wrong thing, but I find that process of curating and putting the material together helps me learn it. And then when I go out and share and present, not only that's helping deepen my learning, but I'm also transmitting that knowledge and sparking that interest in the people I'm sharing with. And usually that then gets me to the level of fluency I now need to then have a conversation with the intended stakeholder group of people. So that's something that's worked for me in the past. So, but let's talk about skills we currently have, right? I think we have a good representation here of Latinas in tech, different parts of their journey, and all of them have great skills, right? Great skills to be a Latina in tech. So. But some may have come into tech by way of some other opportunity, right? Maybe they, I'm always amazed here at Accenture, the people that I work with. Sometimes you expect, or the perception might be, well, everybody works at Accenture must be in a comp sci major or whatnot. And we've had anthropologists. I've met 2 new team members who studied theology as an undergrad. But they've fallen into tech, right? So we all start, nuestros caminos son diferentes, and that's part of what makes diversity wonderful, right? We're all coming from different places, and it's acknowledging and hearing and seeing people where they come from. But let's say today the skills that you have, and maybe they're not 100% tech, but that's still skills, right? How do you translate that to being more tech conversant or a career in tech? So I'm going to start with Cassandra on this one.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in art schools, right? So art therapy is something that I'm really passionate about. Mental health and how to relate art as a form of therapy is something that I'm very passionate about. And just my general love for, the performing arts, the visual arts, sculpture, all of that sort of stuff. So I grew up in that environment, and I very much so wanted to carry that on throughout my life. And I would say I personally use that when I'm designing applications, right? If I'm working on a new website or a new tool with my team, even if I'm not in the weeds these days, right, in the total UX design, I still want to see it and feel it and touch it and whiteboard with my team. And you'd be surprised how many people love the virtual whiteboard. I wasn't sure how well that was going to work during the pandemic, but my team loves to get on a whiteboard and just design and doodle and go at it with me. So I definitely try to carry all of that creativity over with me into my day-to-day job. And it just honestly makes my day more enjoyable for myself, selfishly anyway. So I would say from like my artistic creative side, I definitely bring that into my designs, my innovation, the way that I research and approach things, I bring it over there. And then from my engineering brain, my problem solving skills. So even though I went from being, a chemical engineer to working in big banking at Accenture in tech consulting, I was still able to use those problem solving skills, right? It's still a process flow. There's a start, end, and where are we going in between, and how are these boxes connecting, right? That's still problem solving. And you can think of that as chemistry, right? You have your reactants, you have some kind of catalyst, you have a reaction that happens, and then you have a product. If you just think of that as like a process flow, I use that as well when I'm problem solving with clients. So I would say like those two sides are what I bring day to day personally.
All right, great. How about you, Melissa?
Definitely agree with everything that was shared by Cassandra. So if you had asked me a decade ago, I would have told you that international development was my path in life. And so I got a liberal arts degree. And for me, for a while, I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to make that transition? But as we mentioned, there were already those skills I had under my belt, like such as my analytical thinking, how to just cross-cultural collaborate, and also research. It's something you had mentioned too. Because now the project I'm on, we're always constantly trying to think of new innovative ways that we can present to the client. And therefore that requires some research. I may not know it off the bat, but I will get to know it. And just because, and I think just having that willingness to learn really helps out. It really shows your client and your supervisors that you are willing to take on anything that you're passionate about.
All right, great. Rebecca?
So I'm one of those individuals that got into technology, but if you look at my background, people are always surprised because even though I mentioned having run batch jobs, I did that in high school. But then when I went to college, I was actually a psychology and a French major. So very different from what I did. And then my very first project with, at that point, Anderson Consulting, I was a COBOL programmer. Just to give you an idea, right? But I think what I ended up doing, and it's not that I had studied, I went to a liberal arts school. I didn't study computer science, and it was really before that was really very, very popular and common. But that wasn't even available, right? Where I went to school. But what I did for me is I have always loved to learn, right? So I've always had a strong passion for learning. I also, I've been able to really take advantage of also my problem solving skills. I've always been a very good problem solver. I also have I can think logically well, right? I can break things into steps, and I used all of that to basically learn how to code, right? That's the first thing that I did. I wanted to do it, and that's what I did. Naturally, I'm very much so a people person. I like people. I think of the background that I've had, I've actually used both the psychology and the French in the tech work that I've done. I remember years ago, I was working on a very large project, and basically we were working in, it was the Latin American and Caribbean division of this particular company. And I was brought in, I was brought in to try to find these small, tiny systems that were going to break everything during the year 2000. But because I was brought in to work at that Latin American and Caribbean division, if you would have ever walked into any of our meetings and you did not speak, so we spoke Spanish, there was Portuguese, there was French. Every once in a while there was English. You would be lost, right? Because that's just how you did business. So again, for me, it's you can take, if you've got a passion for technology, you don't have to be a hardcore technologist, right? There's so many ways to take that passion that you have for the work and translate it into work that makes you happy, right? And like I said, for me, it's been more my love of learning, and then also taking the skills that I'm naturally good at, and being able to use those to make me a much more effective technologist, and basically more effective in my day-to-day work.
Thanks. There's that word again, pasión, right? And we've already learned that that's one way to flip the narrative when they're trying to say another word to pin on you. And if you think about the law of attraction, right, pasión, right, it is something that creates excitement, and that excitement is palpable, and it attracts people, and people are like, wow, you know, this is a person I want to get to know and work with, right? Must be, you know, when we come together on project teams here at Accenture, right, you can always tell who's got the pasión, because they've always got a lot of energy, and they lift the rest of the team when they're not quite feeling it, or the coffee's not kicking in. So I always think about the law of attractions, right? Pasión, and how those particles create magic. So want to close out with the last question. I see we've got a few questions, so I do want to allow our attendees to ask these questions of the panelists. So to close out with pasión here, how do we continue to advocate and amplify? And I'll start with Rebecca. So we'll go Rebecca, Cassandra, Melissa.
So I think one of the things that we can do is also just, you know, make sure that we're bringing people up and mentoring and making sure that we're sharing that passion, right? So so for me, that's very, very important, right? Making sure that we're giving back and making sure that we're not allowing our voices to get stomped down, right? So making ourselves heard. And like I said, we could do that through events such as this, through just, you know, one-on-one mentoring, and also sharing with others. I have one of the things that I always say is that you don't know what you don't know. And I feel like it's my responsibility to educate, right? So, and to try to help teach what people do not know if it's around technology or business. And so again, I think there are different ways to really build that out.
All right, Cassandra.
I think it's, you have an opportunity to build a brand, right? So if people know you have a voice and you like to use it, you'll be surprised how often they come and ask you for your opinion. I mean, to the extent where my managing director was like, what do you want in the new office? Right. And I was able to provide him the Chicago office moving, and I was able to say, hey, this is what I expect to see. I want to see moms represented, et cetera, right? And so you can give that input. And the point of me saying that is that if you're invited to things, like I've also been invited to an anti-racism board at Accenture, right? And I'm currently participating in that. And that means a lot to me, right? Because that means my voice has been heard in the past and it wants to continue to be heard, right? And folks are recognizing that. So I would say just when you get opportunities like that, take advantage of them and let people know that you care and that you are passionate.
All right, Melissa?
Yeah, I'll echo what Rebecca and Cassandra just mentioned. It really is about just being that voice and being heard. I mean, for me personally, I've been working closely with our AFS recruitment team to just bring on board talented individuals from our community. And something that we did recently was we were involved in reviewing any bias that were in the job descriptions, you know, that could deter somebody from our community for applying for those jobs. So that's my way of also raising my voice for the community. And on my project, I have monthly check-ins with my team because I want to make sure that, you know, the quietest person on my team may be struggling through issues that they don't feel comfortable sharing with everybody, but they're sharing it with me. And then I can take that up when it comes to performance evaluation. So I can take that up to the next, you know, up the ladder. So be that voice. And for me personally, yeah, I just care so much about people, and I just love seeing our Latinas moving up the ladder chain. So anything I could ever do for the Latina group. And I would also say, you know, tell everybody everything you've heard tonight. You know, anybody who wants to get involved in tech, tell your siblings who may still be in high school, elementary school, middle school, because once they see you moving up that ladder and breaking down all these barriers, they're going to feel inspired by you and want to and be drawn by the tech field.
Thank you. Yes, I'll say on the theme of advocating and amplifying, and something that you just brought up, Melissa, the make sure you're pulling up, right? So I know we shared the stat where 80% of the Latinas in tech members don't have a senior Latina to look up to at work. If there's one thing to take away from this other than tech fluency and tips and tricks on how to do it is no matter where you are in your career, someone is looking up at you right now. So reach back and pull them up behind you, right? You don't have to be a CEO to pull someone up. The leadership is there for you right now. So start pulling up, right? If you're just starting your career, pull up that middle schooler, that high schooler, that immigrant who's risked a lot to come to this country for a better future, right? If you're in middle management, start pulling up your junior staff. And if you're up there, if you're that 2%er, I'm counting on you to do a lot of pulling up, right? But it's going to take each and every one of us pulling back, and that's how the change starts. And that change should not be broken. So with that, I think we have time for a couple of questions. And so what's the best way to manage the questions, Ana, from Latinas in Tech?
I don't know if Anna's here, but I am here. Hi. There are a couple of questions on the Q&A, so I'm not sure if you're able to see it from your side, but one of them is, how do you balance between speaking up and being perceived as combative?
Oh, I heard a lot of that. I would flip it, right? We talked a little bit earlier, like how easy it is for some individuals to pin something on us when in reality, they're doing the exact same thing. So call them out. How come when so-and-so speaks up like that, you're not calling them combative? It's actually a assertive behavior, right? And you're celebrating that assertive behavior. So I'm doing that same assertive behavior. So help me understand, why is that different? Now, that being said, people who know me, that is my personality, right? So if you're not sure how to go about it without being Ana Luisa, right? And you know, believe me, plenty of times I was told that, right? That you're too combative, you're too aggressive, right? Instead of being assertive. So I've had to learn how to flip the narrative, right? But this is where, especially earlier in my career, those allies who believed in me, I leaned on them a lot, because sometimes when you have to go to war, you need a battalion behind you. You need backup, right? So pull in the backup when necessary. That's what worked for me personally. And I'm also talking, when I was early in my career, we're talking about 20 years ago. So things might be a little bit different. So who's got a more recent experience here with my esteemed panelists? Rebecca, Melissa, Cassandra, anybody?
Here, I can add a little bit. You know, I think one of the techniques that I use, because a lot of times in certain situations, I've also found that there's a lot of that people could be, there's a lot of hot energy in the room, sometimes in these discussions. And at times I feel that I sort of have to step back, right, in those situations, and me personally also take a breath, and then figure out how am I going to address the situation so that they see that they're talking about something that, you know, they find it okay if this other person does it, but it's not okay if I'm doing it, or someone on my team is doing it. But I think so I think one of the things that I always recommend is really taking a pause in those situations, and instead of just an immediate reacting, so that punch, right, sort of stopping it before, thinking about it, and then even taking it, you know, and depending on where you are or where that happens, right? Because sometimes I've certainly been in situations where people say something or they bring it up and it is offensive, right? And they're okay with it over here, and then they complain about it if it's coming from me or from someone else. But I try to break apart so that it again, I try to reduce that negative tension, at least for a moment, because if not, I feel like people tend not to listen, right? And so that's what I always recommend when you're, because a lot of times people won't even, they won't listen, right? And they're not going to see the difference until they are in a better frame of mind. And so that's what I typically do, right? And then after I take that step back, maybe pull that person aside, right? And then we have a discussion of, so why are you interpreting this like this? When, and start to break down that situation for that individual. I feel like I tend to get farther. Plus I don't get people will listen instead of just calling me out, right? And so that's what I found recently.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And it goes to something we said earlier, right? Regarding read the room or read the environment you're in when this is going down, because you also have to figure out, is this the right place to do it? Or do I need to take this offline and have a personal conversation? But I think there was a question here about, it seems like we constantly have to do a lot of this, and it's stressful and it's tiring. Unfortunately, it is. I am a firm believer that we have to create the momentum. And creating momentum is work, right? It's energy, it's work, but we have to do it, because otherwise it's really gonna be sad if 10 years from now we still have these same statistics that we just quoted today, right? So we have to be committed to this movement. It is a movement, and the movement needs momentum, and it does require our energy and our passion. There's that word again. To make this happen, because otherwise las cosas no van a cambiar if we don't take this up and keep moving. But the important thing is to again build that community, build those allies around you, because it's still going to feel like it's a lot of energy, but when there's more hands helping, it's going to feel like less, it's all on you. All right, do we have time for a final question?
We could do one more. I'm seeing one that kind of goes along with the theme over here. Working in a predominantly white and male environment, do you ever feel the need to code switch or over explain?
The whole it is tied to the former one. Yeah. It is. So again, understanding what's the dynamic that's happening, where this is happening, who else is in the room, and being able to read, okay, is this a place where I want to make a stand? And you should take a stand, but how deep do you want to make that stand? Or is this something that, sometimes you gotta be able to hear and see people, and that's not applied just for us, but also for everybody else that we're working with, trying to meet them halfway, right? What is it about how we're saying something or articulating something? Is it truly, it's not coming across, and is there truly a better way? Or they're just picking on us, and it's bias, right? And they're trying to make us feel not competent, right? So I think back to what Rebecca said, right? Taking that step back and trying to figure out what's really at play here. And again, this is something that those first few times you may not get it right. It does evolve over time. This is experience that you start building and you start finessing. But I think it all depends, right? And I think for me, it's come down to having personal conversations with the people who I feel were like, let me just check in with you. How did that go? I noticed you were directing the conversation this way, or asking a lot of questions that seemed to be like putting into question what I was putting. So was there something that I said that didn't come across right? Help me understand, right? And if it is true, and more often than not, it's what I just explained, and maybe that's coaching that it's for me, Ana Luisa, not Ana Luisa la Chapina or the immigrant, right? But sometimes it is, right? Sometimes there is unconscious bias at work, and that's going to require a little bit more work. And going back to, it does require energy to address these things, right? So again, being able to read the moment as to what exactly is going on here, so that way I can determine what's the best response or how to engage with this person. And sometimes it's just toxic people, right? And if they're toxic with you, they're going to be toxic with a whole lot of other people. So please speak up and have a conversation with a supervisor with human resources. Okay, anybody else on the panel want to add to that?
Oh, I was gone for a second there, my audio. I actually would love to end with this question as far as your experience with Accenture. I think this is a good one for all of you to answer. What is a good way to discover whether a company is a good fit for your needs?
Oh, we lost Ceci there. I think in terms of how do we determine if a company is a good fit for you, the individual looking to join them. So I've done a lot of talking. Who wants to take this from the panel?
I can just quickly provide my experience with this one. So for me, what was essential, when I was looking to work for another company was like, I wanted it to feel like I was coming into a familia. I didn't want to just be another person on a project. And so I went to the Accenture website and I found that their inclusion, diversity, and their HAERG group, which is like heavily involved in just creating different initiatives and events. And then when I came on board, that made me feel like I fit in, like I found my familia. Like that's what I value, familia. So I felt that coming into Accenture, and that's why I'm still here. So that I would say definitely know what you value and then do that research. See if that's something that the company offers, because if they do, then I think that would be a great fit for you.
Yeah, Rebecca, go.
Yeah. Okay, I can add a little bit to what Melissa said, because I completely agree that you need to understand what you want and what you need. The one recommendation I always make to people when they're really trying to decide where they want to work, especially if they're looking at multiple options, and some may be pretty different, right? I actually talk to a lot of engineers who are thinking, do I work for a consulting company, or do I go and do traditional engineering work where I'm going to go work at a Boeing or something, whatever that may be. And they really truly they've got likes in both sides. I always recommend that if you know someone that works for that particular company that you are interested in, talk to them. And really, because I think it's a lot easier if you have if you have a friend that works there, that's the ideal situation, right? A friend or a family member that you can really ask those really hard questions that maybe you don't feel that comfortable with asking, a recruiter or someone that you're talking to or you're interviewing with. But to really understand, at least in my mind, to really understand the company, it's best to really talk to somebody who's been working there. So that's always that's the top recommendation I usually give to people if you can. And nowadays, through items such as, we've got LinkedIn, for example, where you can connect to people from different places. A lot of, people are usually open to even talking to you, it's on a personal side. And then taking advantage, if you're in school, taking advantage of companies that are coming in, even if it's virtual, right? And holding these discussions, but having that opportunity to really talk to people that are working there that can give you the real feel for it, to see if it is something that would match with what you want to do.
All right, so I think we're going to transition now to so ending on that note regarding who to talk to, right? So the last 20 minutes or so, we have a wonderful crew here of Accenture recruiters who are happy to answer your questions about Accenture in general. Even if you're not looking to immediately join us, but yeah, get a feel for us. I'm happy to stay on to answer any other questions, but I do know Melissa, Cassandra, and Rebecca may have something else to jump on. So I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes, but I want to thank Latinas in Tech. And more importantly, I want to thank you for the investment of your time and cafecito this afternoon. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Ceci.
Yeah, and I mean, just to close us out, thank you so much, Melissa, Cassandra, Rebecca, and Ana Luisa. This was my hands. I have took so many notes. I'm old school, so my hand is sore. But now I would love to, welcome the recruiters on stage. If you want to turn on your videos, if you want to, interact with our community and use the chat, please, everybody, to get any of those questions asked or questions answered, should I say.
Hi, Ceci. I just wanted to jump in, and one of our panelists is also from the business. So not everyone's a recruiter. We do have some, one or two folks just to talk about, their experience at Accenture, their experience, in Accenture technology, yeah. So I will turn it over. I think some of the recruiters are on. We've got Erica and Amberly.
Hi there.
Hey, everyone.
And I think already one of the first questions is any tips to narrow down what depth to apply in Accenture. So if you can feel free to read through those questions and address them.
Sure. So I think for narrowing down, Accenture is a really large company. So there's a few ways you can do it. Either by location. So see what Accenture is doing in your area if it's somewhere you don't want to relocate. Another way is figuring out your strengths and skills and what interests you. So you may be going for a role in technology, but are you interested in working with certain types of clients? So retail clients versus somebody in like resources like oil and gas. So there's a few ways that you can narrow it down. But right now I think we have something over like 3,000 or 4,000 jobs open in North America. So if you have any questions on needing to figure that out, you can always reach out to me or somebody within Accenture, and we're always open to helping you out with that. So it looks like if we use an ATS, so we do, when you apply to our Accenture.com/careers site. So if no one is familiar with that, what that does is it's just a large way for applications, resumes to come in, and you can feel like you're just applying to a black hole. It can be very scary. It can be frustrating because you don't know when you get that email that you're not being picked up for the role, why that happened. And it could be something simple as you didn't upload your resume correctly and it didn't translate over correctly, or they filled the role and you just applied at the very end of the recruiting time frame. So what your best bet to do is for any company that you, and not just Accenture, but for any large company that does use a talent acquisition system, reach out to a recruiter, someone like me, Kristen Crane was on earlier, Erica, somebody that has, that can help you out and advocate on your behalf, and to help you figure out where your application ended up.
I see another question related to internships, and definitely kind of to the same point of the kind of answer regarding how to find the best role for yourself. Most companies, and our company in particular, you can filter directly to internship postings. And Amberly, keep me honest, I'm pretty sure the summer internships for next year has not opened at this point. And it depends on the part of the business, whether it be during the school semesters. Definitely keep me honest on that, but definitely just continue to connect with your school's career center and check our website to find internship opportunities.
So so I was just going to chime in. We definitely, the internship opportunities are open, and we'd recommend everyone go to the talent portal. That's entry level. So you'd go to, I think it's avature.com/talent portal, and you'd build your profile from there. And typically they are, so we're interviewing for that right now for next summer.
Perfect.
All right, so it looks like Kimberly had a question on with her background as a mechanical engineer, should she apply for a technology analyst or business, and what would be a better fit? The good thing is you could apply broadly to both. What I really enjoy about our new talent portal for entry level is when you go through that screen interview, you have a recruiter on the other end talking you through that, what your best fit is, and actually career coaching you through it. So first of all, which one should you apply to, where your strengths lie, even to location, where the best fit is going to be. So if you go to that talent portal and you are looking at one of our entry level roles, one of our recruiters will be walking you through that during the screen interview.
And Amberly, I think that ties well with another question that was in the chat. How much do recruiters communicate with candidates? And you've had instances of ghosting. That's super unfortunate for those different companies and roles that you have applied for. But at Accenture, our recruiters really work alongside the candidates. So there's constant communication with the candidate. And they are really your best point of contact, and every recruiter I have worked with has been very responsive pretty quickly. So come apply with us. And we will continue to connect with y'all. And just to Amberly's point, we like to help the coaching process as well. So if you're confused about roles and which one's the best to apply to, your recruiter will have a kind of a better answer based off of your specific resume, your background, and what you're looking for.
And it looks like we have a few other recruiters from Accenture who have joined and are also fellow members of Latinas in Tech. So they've been posting some links in the chat and information about themselves. So connect with all of us. That's your best bet, is those one-on-one connections are going to help you figure that which roles are going to be best for you. So there's a ton of us here, so you can and Kristen just put my information in there as well, so you can always connect with us.
I see a question regarding post-pandemic work policy at Accenture. So for Accenture Federal Services, which is a subset of Accenture, but I'm Amberly, once again, keep me honest. I hope everything's very much streamlined, but all mandatory or all unnecessary travel has been kind of put on hold this past fiscal year, which was September through coming up to the end of the fiscal year, actually this year, start a new fiscal year in September. So all of that type of travel was put on hold, and a large portion of our workforce was working remotely. And based off of your client and location, that helps determine when you'll get back into the office. And so that kind of rollout is still very much taking place currently. And it also, of course, is also related to the location that you live in. So I think that the new normal, I hate to use that term, but the new normal is definitely here to stay. And prior to the pandemic, Accenture has always been a very work from home friendly organization. I've been with Accenture for 6 years. And the first 4 years that I worked at Accenture, I was partially traveling, partially in office, and also working from home. So Accenture has kind of always worked that way for some of our roles, and it was a very easy transition. Definitely valuing the importance of everyone's health, and prioritizing that. That was key to Accenture, and it's going to continue to be based off of that first and foremost before they roll out a large transition plan back into the office.
And it's pretty much the same on our end. The focus that we have is helping our clients. So if you are in a client-facing role, you may be going back to the client site. Some clients they're not even back on their campuses, so they're not going to have us. And then there's some that, you know, as soon as their state allowed them to open their offices up, they were having people back on in their offices. So some of the roles that we have, yes, you do need to be in that location or be able to travel. And like Erica said, same with us. A lot of our roles are either remote or you have to be within 90 minutes or 100 miles of the Accenture office.
I see a question related to area or top errors candidates make going through the hiring process. One thing that I definitely would love to just kind of definitely share, especially with our roles, Amberly used the word advocate. That's really a huge part of our recruiter role. So I think that the best thing that you can do is when you have that initial conversation with your recruiter, be honest and upfront about what you are looking for, where you'd like to get your career going, and just be available to chat with your recruiter and talk to managers when you can. I think that sometimes individuals like to kind of keep their desires kind of, hush hush till the very end, whether it's related to compensation, whether it's, oh, now I need to work remote or I can't do a travel role. I would definitely always recommend being upfront and honest of what you're looking for, because we have lots of roles, 3,000 plus positions. There's probably the right role for you out there. And we just want to advocate and make sure that you're getting to the right position. So I would say that's definitely something that I always tell all of my candidates is to think about what's important to you. What's important to you when you're looking at this role: location, amount of travel, compensation. There's a lot of different factors for each of us. So think about it and then share them with your recruiter sooner rather than later in that hiring process.
I definitely agree with that. From the onset, though, one of the biggest things that I see people making errors with is making sure that your resume fits the job description. So Accenture is, we have, for compliance issues, all of our basic qualifications are listed and you have to meet those at 100%. So if it says 3 years experience and I, as a recruiter, can only see 2 years experience on your resume, you've already let yourself out of the running. That's the first thing that you need to do, is make sure that you're constantly checking your resume against the job descriptions, the basic qualifications, so that you can get to that next step. For some roles, it may have a specific degree. Make sure that your degree is listed exactly like that. Use words from the job description in your resume so that when a recruiter is scanning through it really quickly, they can see exactly how you're fitting that job description. So that would, you got to get in the door. And then the next part is, especially for as women, as Latinas, we, and we talked about it earlier, is that that imposter syndrome. So if you meet the basic qualifications, apply. If it's something that you're interested in, apply to it. Don't second guess it. If you want to talk to somebody, but you're qualified to do it. So put your name in the hat.
I see a question related to how Accenture business is supporting, attracting, retaining, and promoting a diverse talent globally. I have worked for other companies besides Accenture, and the amount of interest, compassion to keeping and looking for diverse talent, I mean, it's just nothing like I've ever seen. It's something that we are constantly talking about as a workplace, how to become a more inclusive environment. And I really like the term inclusion and belonging, because at Accenture, you know, you could recruit as much diverse talent as possible, but if you're, you know, still not feeling like you're a part of the organization, then you're not going to feel comfortable being at our, you know, being within the family. Someone mentioned earlier that they were looking for a family when they looked for their company, and that's what I found, and didn't realize how important that was when I was first looking for this position. And now that I found it, I can't imagine working for an organization that doesn't prioritize this like family. So we are constantly at Accenture going through leadership exercises, inclusion and diversity events. Our employee resource groups are constantly hosting events to share more about different cultures and getting all these different teams involved. So it's a constant conversation that's taking place. Obviously, time, you know, it's definitely not something that a culture can change, you know, overnight. But we are always working to striving to be the most inclusive environment as possible. So, you know, Accenture has globally announced that we are going to be a 50-50 gender diverse workforce by, you know, 2025. And that's something that we have truly dedicated ourselves to. And it's been an amazing kind of thing to see it all progress. I remember being, you know, one of few women kind of in the room before, and now just seeing all of these different individuals alongside me, different Latinas in tech, has always made me get a big smile. So Accenture is definitely always working to being the most inclusive and belonging environment possible.
Let's see. So for those of us who are pivoting careers, how do you deal with the number of years of experience on it? So on your resume, there's a few ways you can do it. There's different resume formats that you can use. A chronological one, of course, is probably not going to be the best in this situation, but you can use like a strengths-based resume, skills-based, and then list like your jobs very like small at towards the bottom. There's a few ways you can do it that way. I just say in your objective or summary, just be upfront about wanting to do that that pivot, and make it as bold as you possibly can. Like, I am looking for a career change, and we definitely read through those objectives and those summaries to see the reason why somebody is applying to the role.
Any other questions? Please feel free. I think we still have a couple minutes left to put into the Q&A or into the chat. And as you probably have seen, I'm about to add my information as well, but lots of different LinkedIn profiles to connect with our different recruiters. So please go ahead and get into our talent portal, connect with our recruiters on LinkedIn. And like I said, I'll add my information here soon. So if you do have a question after the fact and want to speak to somebody that was speaking here today, presenting here today, please feel free to go ahead and message us. And we are very, very responsive. At least I am. We're all very responsive. I know so. Amberly, we have a question regarding recruiters and hire managers and cover letters. Should people submit them or not? A lot of the roles that I've worked with at Accenture Federals that are very technology focused, the cover letter is usually not something that the manager reviews on my end. What would you say, Amberly?
Really, for me, unless there is a need to explain completely beyond your resume, or if the job description asks for a cover letter, I almost never read them. Like, I'll be honest, like, you have to understand when you're having hundreds of people apply to a role, we're going quickly through those resumes, and the first thing we're doing is making sure you're meeting the base qualifications. Okay, great. What's setting you apart from the other resumes that we have in hand? Great. So sometimes there's just no time to get to the cover letter unless you're in like the second, third, fourth round of the interview process.
Agreed. It's definitely some of my higher level positions, manager roles. Sometimes the cover letter is brought in if there's been a third or fourth round for an interview. But most positions, I would agree, the resume being the most descriptive as that can be to share your skill sets.
All right, well, I'm gonna jump in here and say thank you to you guys for answering all these questions. I know it's a lot. I for the 50 something people that are still left here, a quick, you are the first to know that we are actually, Latinas in Tech is launching a new initiative starting in August. We'll announce it actually on next Monday, but it's gonna be for university. So Latinas in Tech University, we're gonna support students and share resources and advice and things like that. So I would love to connect with campus recruiting at some point in the future to see what are some of the synergies there, if we could partner for an event for students and things like that. So you heard it here first because you're champions and stay with us till the end. So super excited for that initiative and cannot wait to share those with Accenture as well and share the new any openings for students that you guys may have for the future. So thank you again. This was awesome. It's great to see you all here. Thank you for coming. We are at the end, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up if there are any last minute questions. Yay. All right, well, if no last minute questions, thank you all so much for coming. Cannot wait to see you at the next event. Have a great rest of your night.